call to order January 14th, please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Here.
Mr. Jim?
Here.
Mrs. Wolford?
Here.
Mr. Scapora?
Here.
Mr. Baldneri?
Here.
Mr. Forish? Mayor Griffin?
Present.
6 present.
Okay. Approval of minutes from the December 10th, 2012 meeting, please. May I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that the minutes from the December 10th, 2013 meeting be approved and accepted and be permitted to remain on the Secretary's desk, so they will be available for review and reading and inspection to anyone.
May I have a second?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have approval of fiscal department reports and paid bills for the month of December 2012. May I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Mrs. Wolford, second.
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Baldneri, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 6, citizens' requests and comments. Does anybody wish to speak?
Jim Bull, 225 Irving Avenue, Latrobe. I just want to mention the fact that I read over the budget report, went through the budget, and I personally would like to commend the manager and the staff for a job well done on it. I noticed you had to tap in $103,000 to balance the budget. Quite frankly, I thought 6 months ago you needed $250,000 to balance the budget. I think 10 months from now you may be dipping into another $100,000 from your general fund. I hope not. I know it's a tough situation today, but somewhere some small cuts are going to have to be made because some major cuts are going to have to be made in the years to come here. I think the city manager is going to have an extremely tough job balancing budget for 2014. I really figure if you maintain the millage, you're going to be about $300,000 short. So you may have to tap into that general fund again. I hope not. Once again, I hope things work out for you and things pick up. As I said, job well done, Alec. Those are the kind of reports I wish every citizen, every taxpayer in the city of Latrobe would have a copy of these things to read and understand what's going on in the city here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bull. Anybody else wish to speak?
Mark Scarbo, 519 Main Street. There is no ordinance in Latrobe for noise. And where I live, these trucks are coming down the road and using their Jake brakes with straight pipes at all times of the day and night. In the daytime, it's not too bad, but at 3 o'clock in the morning when they come down Main Street 50 mile an hour with straight stacks and use their engine brakes, I mean, it rattles the windows in my house. I think that we need to pass a law for engine brake restriction.
I've noticed some municipalities have that law that you can't use your Jake brakes in their city limits. Is that correct? I've seen that. I think Blairsville has it.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of cities that do it.
Madam Mayor, I thought we were going to have that on the agenda this week. What happened to it? Is it on the agenda?
If I may, Councilmember Jim, in discussion with the mayor about what would be on the agenda, city staff related to the fact that the trucks that the city uses have Jake brakes. We're hesitant to put it on the agenda without further discussion among the council as a whole. Besides the gentleman from Main Street, we had not heard of this as a problem. Ms. Wolford, to your point, typically where you find these ordinances in place, there's a steep descent into the town. Near Main Street, for example, in Greensburg, is a hill that goes right into town, and that's where you typically see those. SR 981 and 982, both in and exiting town, don't have those kinds of hills. And as we had discussed it internally, and I haven't even discussed it with the chief or with the traffic members of the police, as they see it as an issue. Of course, it will come in as an expense to advertise and an expense to sign the areas where it's prohibited and so forth, and then the enforcement issue. And seeing that we hadn't fully vetted those issues, I was reluctant to put it on the agenda, and I removed it from the agenda for this meeting.
And Alex and I talked about the same issues, and I don't know, I live on Spring Street. I have those trucks going up and down all the time, go to Weiss Warehouse, and I don't seem like it's that much of a problem.
Well,
It's noisy, but, pardon me?
You hear Jake brakes?
No.
Well, if you lived at Main Street, you know where I live, 519, that's right where they have to make a left to go on 981. They're coming down the road, they're coming exceptionally fast. And, like with the straight pipes, I'm telling you, any one of you are welcome to come sit at my house any night of the week. And you'd be up here complaining. And I'm a truck driver. So, if a truck driver's complaining about it, then something's wrong.
I can understand where he's coming from. I live on 982 out there. Sometimes I hear the Jake brakes, and that's on a level road. That's the drivers. They decide how they want to drive and stuff like that. You're saying we have Jake brakes in our trucks and stuff like that?
Like the city.
And I've never heard any of Joe's drivers using a Jake brake on down, even up in the hill and stuff like that, I've been behind. That's a driver, he does this, you know what I mean? These hills ain't that bad. There's a stop sign between every block. They should not need to be picking up that kind of speed and using their Jake brakes. When you have a driver using his Jake brake on a flat level road, that's a little ridiculous.
Madam Mayor, I think that in answer to your question, I believe you had called me, I'm Richard Jim.
Yes, I did.
In answer to your question, I think that part of that is during the agenda session, which was only attended by me and let's see who else, Stuffy and yourself. We talked about exempting vehicles, that is municipal vehicles. And I think that would eliminate some of the concerns, perhaps all of the concerns. But I'm with you. I don't see any particular reason not to ban them on at least Main Street. It's noisy, unproductive, and certainly doesn't help in our image, so to speak, for those that do live upon Main Street.
Well, like I said, and the cost is minimal because passing the law, I don't know what that cost you to pass the law, but the only thing the cost is only putting up, what, 4 or 5 signs?
Yeah, and I'll have to say we do have a lot of signs.
Yeah.
Latrobe.
Well, they would only need to be at the city limits. We're coming in on 981 or coming in on 982 at the city limits where the trucks are traveling. You don't need them on the side streets because trucks ain't even allowed on the side streets.
Are there any type of exemptions for state routes that you can't do that within a city limit? I'm just thinking, maybe it looks like we have to do some further due diligence on the subject, possibly, it sounds like.
That is correct, but to your point, typically, it would be the state routes that you do see this. I think PennDOT has allowed it to be governed at the local level as need be.
Okay, thank you.
Will we be taking
Thanks,
this,
Mark.
take this up again then?
You are welcome to amend tonight's agenda. And
No,
we'll
not
have it
tonight, I mean after,
February.
in February, yeah.
If that's what
January's
occurs.
agenda session. I think you mean January's agenda session. January's agenda session, which comes in about 2 weeks. Take it up at that point, is that what you're saying, Mr.?
No, I'm saying take it up at the February.
Take it up at the February meeting after he's done his due diligence to
Right.
determine.
But to discuss it more fully.
If they wish,
agenda
yeah.
session in January.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, thanks. Any committee reports? Board authority reports? Department reports? Okay, John Roselli's not here. Chief Boomer?
Yeah, a couple things. We have met with the school board and also with Latrobe Elementary School. I've prepared and presented a strategic plan for critical incident management response and specifically an active shooter plan. And we've had a couple meetings with the school district on that. Also, I want to thank council and the mayor for supporting the police department. We now support a brand new fleet of vehicles, including a K-9 car, which was purchased through the K-9 fund. We do have a marked four-wheel drive vehicle that is great for up on the hill in this snow and ice. So we're real proud of our new fleet, and it's really a nice addition to the police department. And also, we're in the process of obtaining central booking. The central booking, which will be downstairs. All the equipment is in for the central booking. We're just awaiting. The state police is revamping their Megan's Law registration, and we will be a center where Megan's Law registered offenders will have to come in and register through the state, and they're just working some bugs out on that right now. And that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Joe?
Report, Madam.
Ian's on. Okay, Jim. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the first item on the agenda for action is a resolution. The resolution is entitled Approving Purchase of Various Items for the Latrobe Parking System. Basically, the resolution as outlined reads, the city's determined that the pricing structure of Duncan Solutions USA as set forth in their request for proposal is both fair and reasonable for items to be purchased, and that it would be in the city's best interest to purchase various mechanisms for the meter parking system as well as other related materials, since we already have approximately 230 meters that contain the Duncan systems. And the resolution reads, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Latrobe does hereby accept and approve a proposal from Duncan Solutions USA to sell to the city and for the city to purchase various internal digital mechanisms, related parts and supplies for the mechanism and other parking equipment to be utilized by the city in its on-street and off-street parking system, and that the city hereby specifically approves the purchase order attached as Exhibit A. I spoke with the city manager. There is an outward limit of $150,000 that would be spent on these materials, but he's still firming up the specific unit prices. That the mayor, city manager, city secretary, and any other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect this resolution and the purchase of the items described herein. Resolved in council this date, the motion will be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I so move.
Mr. Baldner, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussions?
I have a question.
Okay.
This Duncan system is something that the parking authority recommends, or they've gone through the various things. This is a system that the parking authority represents. Since we don't have a representative here, just want to reaffirm that.
Yeah, a committee of the parking authority and city staff met with proposers related to this, and they do recommend that. The parking authority will be meeting next Tuesday to affirm the purchase as well. If you recall, this money was budgeted and sits in the city's capital reserve account, which is an account of ours, the city, and we had budgeted $200,000. By going with Duncan, we'll have enough money left over to do the cameras and furniture including garbage bins, a bench, and some other things related to the garage. So this we saw was the most feasible and cost effective way to move forward.
Thanks, Alex. Any other questions?
And again, we have these systems currently, the Duncan systems in our.
By going, yeah, what we essentially are purchasing is the mechanisms to be able to retain then the poles, the housings, and the domes. And what you do is remove the mechanical systems that are in there now and replace them with a digital mechanism.
I think we have about 200 and some in the system at the moment.
We currently have about that many that are there, and then we have about 650 or so that we're going to have to then put the new electronic mechanisms in.
Any other discussions, questions? Okay, vote, Barb.
This is resolution 2013-1. Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mr. Jimenagila.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay, motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item under the Public Works Department is a resolution reaffirming an agreement with the Latrobe Municipal Authority. And I'll just highlight the preambles. Essentially, we've had an agreement in effect since 1981. Wherein at that point in time, the city, or the borough, then turned over all of its sanitary sewer system to the Latrobe Municipal Authority, as well as the operation of the plant itself. The agreement said that it would terminate upon that point in time when the authority was no longer in debt. That occurred in the year 2011 when a Pinvest loan was retired. So therefore, the authority has been operating under the agreement, but the agreement expired. So at this point in time, an agreement has been prepared, which pretty much tracks the old agreement. The only difference being that this agreement would coincide with the term of existence of the Latrobe Municipal Authority. Right now, it goes to the year 2050, and at that time, it's probably expected they would seek to extend their existence. They have to do so every so many years. So this agreement would be for the same purpose, the same conditions, except it goes now to the year 2050 or any extension sought thereafter. And the resolution or the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor. Both the old and the new agreements are attached.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Giovanangelo, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussions? No questions or discussions? Okay, Barb.
This is resolution 2013-2. Mr. Jim.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Jimenagila.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 5 yes, 1 abstain.
Motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item appears under the Administration and Finance Department. And, excuse me, it is a resolution approving a letter of understanding with the collective bargaining unit of the Latrobe Police Department. And the resolution reads, approving tentative agreement with the Latrobe Police Department for a collective bargaining agreement to extend from January 1, 2013 through December 31, 2015. And it reads, whereas the city and the police department have met and negotiated a collective bargaining agreement with the intent that said agreement shall be effective from January 1, 2013 through December 31, 2015. Whereas the parties have agreed upon in principle matters pertaining to wages, longevity, contributions toward health care, insurance premiums, bereavement leave, and residency, which said agreement is embodied in a letter of understanding attached to this resolution as Exhibit A. And now therefore be resolved, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Latrobe hereby approves the letter of understanding attached as Exhibit A as to those matters pertaining to wages, longevity, health insurance premium contribution, bereavement leave, and residency as more fully set forth therein. Section 2, that this approval is granted subject to the preparation of a formal and final collective bargaining agreement between the City and Latrobe Police Department for review, approval, and execution by both parties. Section 3, that the said collective bargaining agreement, except for the changes set forth in this letter of understanding and minor house cleaning language changes, shall remain in full force and effect as currently stated. Section 4, that upon submission to the City of a draft of the collective bargaining agreement by the Latrobe Police Department, the same shall be reviewed by the Office of the City Solicitor, the City Manager, the Chief of Police, and/or their designees, and shall be submitted to Council for final approval. Section 5, unless agreed upon by the parties, there shall be no other changes to the current collective bargaining agreement, except for those set forth on Exhibit A and the minor house cleaning changes. Section 6, the Mayor, City Manager, City Secretary, and any other city officer are hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect and the letter of understanding attached here too. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read by the solicitor.
May I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Baldner, second, please.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
Mr. Jim, any questions or discussion?
I'd just like to make one comment. I'd like to commend the city manager, Mr. Baldner, and Mr. Giovanangelo, and I think Mr. Scapora, as well as the Latrobe Police Department. I think this is the first time in how many years, Alex?
25.
20-some years that
27
we
years.
did not have to enter into binding arbitration, so I think that's progress. So congratulations to all of you.
That's for sure. Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, thanks, Russ. Barb?
This is resolution 2013-3. Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Baldner.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item appearing under the Administration and Finance Department is an ordinance. It's been duly advertised. It is entitled Establishing Wages, Hours, and Fringe Benefit of Positions of the City of Latrobe for fiscal year 2013. It's a fairly lengthy ordinance. I'm not going to go into great detail since it has been publicly advertised. Suffice it to say that the attachment known as Exhibit A defines the salary and fringe benefits for the city manager, the director of administration and finance, the chief of police, the director of public works, the code and zoning officer, the director of the fire department and fire chief, for the 2 paid fire truck drivers, and for the part-time community service officer. And as I said, those are all set forth on Exhibit A. And the motion would be to adopt the ordinance as outlined by the solicitor. This is something we do every year.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Giovanangelo, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussion? Questions? Okay, Barb?
This is ordinance 2013-1. Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Baldner.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item is also an ordinance. It's entitled Fixing the Tax Rate for General City Purposes and Other Purposes for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2013 and ending December 31, 2013, be it enacted and ordained, Section 1, that a tax be the same is hereby levied on all real property within the city of Latrobe subject to taxation for city purposes for the fiscal year 2013, beginning January 1, 2013, and ending December 31, 2013, as follows. A, for general city purposes, tax rate in the sum of 21.30 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation at 100% market value of assessed valuation. B, Adams Memorial Library, a tax rate in the sum of 0.20 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation at 100% market value of assessed valuation levied in accordance with the vote of the electorate of Latrobe Borough at a special election of November 1953. C, other purposes for general government protection of persons and property, health and sanitation, highways, special services, and other miscellaneous services, Section 2, that the total tax rate hereby levied for all of the city purposes as set forth in Section 1 is hereby fixed at 21.50 mils. Section 3, that any ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith or in conflict with this ordinance or any parts thereof being the same is hereby repealed. Section 4, the within ordinance shall take effect on the date of publication of the post enactment notice of passage of the same, enacted this 14th day of January. The motion would be to enact the ordinance as read by the solicitor.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Mrs. Wolford, second, please.
I second the motion.
Mr. Baldoneri, any questions or discussions?
I just have one thing to say. This is my 8th year on council, and we've only experienced one raise in property taxes in 8 years that I've been here. I think we're blessed to not suffer tax raises like many municipalities have that are so-called, you could describe them as being landlocked. The townships certainly have grown. Cities such as us, towns and boroughs across the state have continuously raised their property taxes, and yet we've been able to maintain the same level of property tax, our property tax rate, in spite of the fact that you can't say that we've experienced any great economic growth. And I just, I just want you to be aware of that and take it to the bank.
Thanks. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Barb?
This is ordinance 2013-2. Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Baldoneri.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of council, the last action item under the departments is an ordinance. I'm just going to read the title because we're really simply redoing by ordinance what we did by resolution over the past year. So these matters have already been implemented, but it's amending Chapter 256, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 256-17, Establishment and or removal of handicap parking spaces, Section 256-19, Loading and Unloading, Section 256-51, Parking prohibited at all times, Section 256-53, 2-hour parking limit for all vehicles, Section 256-54, permit parking, and Section 256-55, on-street metered parking facilities. And as I indicated, the ordinance, which is about 5 or 6 pages, details various matters pertaining to these sections that we have already passed by ordinance. So the motion would be to enact the ordinance as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Madam
Okay,
Mayor.
Mr. Baldoneri, second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion? No questions, discussion? Okay, Barb?
This is ordinance 2013-3. Mr. Baldoneri.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
The motion carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that, and members of council, that concludes the departments under unfinished business. It's my understanding there may be some appointments to boards and authorities. It would be for the mayor to make the nomination, then we would put it to a vote for council in the form of adopting a resolution. I am not.
Okay.
Go ahead. I was going to say the first appointment that I note would be to the Latrobe Municipal Authority. There is one vacancy for a 5-year term, and that would be for the term of Mr. McGuire. And, excuse me, Mr. Are there 2
Yeah.
The two applicants are Mr. Donald McGuire and Mr. Simon Chamberlain.
Okay, excuse me, I'm nominating Don McGuire. They're both really very good men. I did talk with Simon Chamberlain this afternoon, and I told him that I was going to nominate Don, so.
Okay. The nomination is for Mr. McGuire. The resolution would read, appointing member to the Latrobe Municipal Authority. Now therefore be it resolved that Donald McGuire be and is hereby appointed as the member of the Latrobe Municipal Authority for a 5-year term, said term to expire on January 31, 2018. Resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolutions read by the solicitor.
Okay. Have a motion.
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Wolford, second.
I'll second that.
Mr. DiVenanzo, any questions or discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor, or Barb, sorry.
This is resolution 2013-4. Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
I abstain.
Mr. Forish. I'm sorry. Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 5 yes, 1 abstain.
Motion carried, thank you. Okay, Dawn.
Yeah, and he requested, I think, the one to serve it, but I am going to talk to him, and I guess it's whichever one the mayor wants to nominate him for, which one of these positions. Fritz is still serving, but he mentioned before about leaving, because he decided to stay. I don't know.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I'm discussing something here with our secretary. The next appointment will be for the zoning hearing board. There are actually 3 vacancies, 1 vacancy for 5 years, that would be the term of Mr. James Miller, 1 vacancy which expires in 2017, that would be 4 years, Mr. Haller, and 1 vacancy which expires in 2016, which is Mr. Fritz, Rick Fritz, who is apparently serving until replaced. Mr. Miller has indicated his intention to be reappointed.
Mr. Haller died.
Right.
Oh.
Vacancy. Yeah. Somebody said something. There's 2 vacancies.
Okay, I nominate James Miller.
Decided to stay.
I nominate James Miller.
Okay. Would that be for the 5-year term, Madam Mayor? Okay.
Yes.
The resolution would read as follows: appointing member to the zoning hearing board. Now therefore be it resolved, section 1, that James Miller be and is hereby appointed to the zoning hearing board for a 5-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2018. Resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. DiVenanzo, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussion? Question, discussion, none? Okay, Barb.
This is resolution 2013-5. Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next vacancy would be on the Latrobe Planning Commission. And there are actually 2 vacancies for 4-year terms, Mr. Albert and Mr. Sardella. Mrs. Sardella, my apologies. Each has requested reappointment. Therefore, I will begin with the first name, and the resolution would read, appointing member to Latrobe Planning Commission. Now therefore be it resolved, section 1, that Donald Albert be and is hereby appointed to the Latrobe Planning Commission for a 4-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2017. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion? Thank you, second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Questions, discussion? Okay, Barb.
This is resolution 2013-6. Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
The next appointment then would be for the second position on the Latrobe Planning Commission, and it would be appointing member to the Planning Commission. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that Deborah Sardello be and is hereby appointed to the Latrobe Planning Commission for a 4-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2017, resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Molinari, second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussion? Questions, discussion? Barb?
This is resolution 2013-7. Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
The next appointment would be to the Latrobe Industrial Development Authority. There is a 5-year vacancy for the term of Mr. Joseph Dietrich, who has requested reappointment. The resolution would read as follows: appointing member to Latrobe Industrial Development Authority. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that Joseph Dietrich being is hereby appointed as a member of the Latrobe Industrial Development Authority for a 5-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2018, resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Mr. Giovanangelo, second.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Baldneri, any questions or discussion? Questions, discussion? Okay, Barb?
This is resolution 2013-8. Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay, thank you.
The next body for reappointment is the Latrobe Parking Authority. There is a 5-year vacancy. It's the term of Dr. Roger Weigel, who is seeking reappointment. The resolution is appointing member to Parking Authority. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that A. Roger Weigel, and being is hereby appointed as a member of the Parking Authority for a 5-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2018, resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Madam
Okay.
Mayor.
Mrs. Wolford, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions, discussions?
Madam Mayor, I noticed that Mr. Weigel has
That Dr. Weigel has no address on his letter of application. It appears like it's some sort of a stamp where his name appears. What's the rule, Mr. Solicitor, in reference to residency for appointment to the parking authority?
To my knowledge, and I haven't looked at it for a while, but I believe you either must be a resident or own a business.
Okay, so he's not a resident?
No, no.
All right, what business does he own?
Well, he's a practicing physician.
I understand that. And what business does he own?
He owns his practice.
Excella Orthopedics. He's the managing partner for Excella Orthopedics.
All right,
And he owns the condominium in the shop.
All right. But I'm saying if Latrobe Steel, I guess if you own stock in Latrobe Steel, then you're a resident. You could be a member of the parking authority.
Theoretically, maybe.
I thought you were allowed to come in or
Pardon?
outside.
The way
But I
it's,
remember his last.
I think that would be stretching the spirit of the regulation. I think the regulation is meant to say that if you have to have some presence here. You have to be affected by the rules and regulations that you would pass. Whether a stockholder would be affected the same as someone who owns a shop here, hard to say. I don't think they would be. I think that, I'm not saying that may not be true, but I'm saying I think that would stretch the spirit of that regulation.
So he may not be eligible, but it stretches the spirit of the regulation to declare him eligible.
Well, if he has his own medical practice, then certainly there are various rules that businesses have to live by that he's going to have to live by, just like any other business owner.
Well, Madam Mayor, what the question is, perhaps he's only an employee.
Richard, he is essentially an employee of Excel Health now. However, he does own the property in which he practices, which is within the city limits.
No, he doesn't own it.
Yes.
He has stock in it. He's a stock owner. He owns stock that owns the property.
I thought we went through this when
he was appointed.
And put new people in, we asked all these questions, and Jim researched it and told us all that he was allowed to hold a position in the parking authority.
That's what we were told. When we realized.
Until I would fully know his status, I'd have to say he is eligible. If we determine facts later that declare him to be ineligible, then like anyone else who might not be eligible in any board or commission, we have to ask him to step down. But let's wait until we determine he's ineligible.
All right, well, the only reason I asked the question, he seems to be the only one that doesn't have a residential address. Mr. Weigel and all the people that have applied for the various boards and commissions. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was my question.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jim. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, Bart.
This is resolution 2013-9. Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to vote yes because the solicitor apparently has cleared him for flight duty.
He doesn't take off?
Where did you take off? Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes,
That is 6 yes.
thank you.
The last board or authority for appointment is the Latrobe Unity Youngstown Park and Recreation Commission. There is one vacancy for a 3-year term. It's Mr. Long's term, Thomas B. Long Jr., who has sought reappointment. The resolution would read, appointing member to the Park and Recreation Commission, now therefore be it resolved. Section 1, Thomas B. Long Jr. being is hereby appointed as a member of the Park and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term, said term to expire January 31, 2016. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
We have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Giovanangelo, second, please.
I'll second that.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussion? Richard?
I like Mr. Long.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay.
This is resolution 2013-10. Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes,
That is 6 yes.
thank you.
That concludes the appointments.
Finished business, Michael?
I have just a question for Mr. Bush and maybe Alex, just to get an update on the sewage line that went across our public works facility. I know last month I asked that question and we weren't happy with some items and they were going to be corrected. Looked into getting them corrected. I wonder if we're any further along with that as Unity Township cut across our property.
After we were unable to have a final field view, I believe what happened next was the snow came, and we've not really been able to go back to it. Joe, I may stand corrected though.
Okay. Although Alex and I did not attend the field view, they did it on their own. And Mike and I discussed a few things, and we are going to be going back here as soon as the weather breaks, and he's going to be providing stone for the road. That was one of our main issues, that it was left almost untravelable due to the mud in that, and it is part of our DEP emergency plan, that particular entrance and exit. So as soon as the weather breaks, he is to bring stone in, and we're going to put a stone gravel road in from the compactor area the whole way out to Mission.
Thanks, Joe.
Any other issues other than the road?
No.
Anyone else unfinished business?
Yes, I do. Mr. Kelly, crosswalks status?
Now that the season, the holiday season is over, the first step is to submit that to our insurer. That'll be done this month.
Crosswalks? All right, thank you.
Never brought that up before, have I?
Can we take care of that so we don't have to hear about it anymore?
Yeah, really. I would love
It's
never.
been like 8 months.
I would love never to bring that up again.
I would love, say,
Mr. Kelly, our mutual aid agreement?
mutual aid agreements. I have the file with the list of the various solicitors I have to get off. Basically, ask them to present. Now what?
Any other unfinished business? Ken?
Nothing, Madam Mayor. One thing I would like to add, we had a planning summit this weekend. It was Friday from 4 to 8 and Saturday from 8 to noon. Friday night was attended by approximately 70 people from the state, local, surrounding communities. Alex and Jared put the thing together, and it was really a wonderful evening. We had a gentleman speak about things that you can do. I forget his name. What was his name? Tom Hilton, who wrote a book called
Save Our Town, Save Our Lands of Pennsylvania.
And it was a great night. Representative Petraka was there, spent the whole 4.5 hours with us Friday night, and it was just a good night. And then Saturday morning, more of the same. So, Alex, I want to commend you and Jared. It was a really exciting opportunity. There's a lot of good things happening, and there was a lot of energy in that room. And we just need to keep the momentum going. So thank you.
Nearly 6 or 8 hours of that has been recorded and is available for viewing at Latrobe TV, as well as, of course, the write-ups. A number of the handouts that were shared those evenings are available for the public to pick up here and will remain at the city for public pickup, and would encourage people to kind of get a handle on the projects and things going on at the city.
I talked with some people on Sunday, and they were real positive about, they enjoyed the Saturdays. Well, they went to both, but they did enjoy the Saturday ones.
Yeah, the people that say this town's dying and there's nothing going on don't know what they're talking about, because there's a lot of things going on, and we need to do a better job of getting it out there and communicating it to people what's going on, because I was really impressed.
In addition, the projects, for the most part, are represented around this room and are on public display at operating business hours of the city, and the public is welcome to come and learn more about the various projects, and if they have questions, they're certainly welcome to come down to my office and see me.
Anything else unfinished business?
I have another question, been asked me by several people. I know there was something in the paper. Demolition is slated to begin soon for the community college.
I'm really glad that you asked the question. Hopefully tomorrow, traffic control signs will go up alerting motors that during demolition, Bank Lane will be closed. And I've instructed Joe and the city crew to not close the alley until we feel that the appropriate signs have been put up. So I'm glad you asked that. I believe something has been in the paper related to that. And the demolition may go through May. And during that time, again, the alley will be closed in order to safely remove, for example, the Paxton building. Certainly no one would want to drive near a garage that's coming down. So just want to warn motorists of that happening.
Along that same line, do we know any visions that the state has for replacing the bridge on 981 that would be just in front of that facility, and if that would change any of the view or the approach to us, if they have anything planned for that?
The state is currently in a design contract, preliminary design. They have proposed 4 options. 3 options would be to the one side of the bridge, on the city hall side of the bridge, and another option would be basically on the railroad track side of the bridge. 2 of the options would, for the most part, require that during construction and demolition, a detour be instituted to redirect traffic along 981 and through 2nd Ward, because it would essentially close off the 981 crossing at the Little Hannah. The other two of the 4 options would be constructed in such a way that the new bridges would be offline, and therefore the old bridge would be able to remain open during that construction. PennDOT plans a public viewing of those options. Any week now, we will get an idea of when that date would occur. The plans viewing would be here at City Hall, where the public would be able to comment on those plans. Of course, again, the latter option is favorable in the sense that we would be able to maintain at least 1 lane of traffic during the entire time of demolition and construction, the facility. In other words, when the bridge eventually has to come down itself, at least 1 lane of the bridge would be able to be open with the new facility. And so we look forward to that. As far as construction goes, the trajectory or the plan for PennDOT is a December 2015 let, and so we're looking at the 2016 and maybe beyond construction season. The 2 options that allow for the current facility to stay online will take longer to construct, so they'll extend to a further construction season. The other one that removes the bridge and then builds a new bridge actually can be done quicker, but again, the problem with that being it would result in a complete detour for all traffic on 981.
Would it detour up around Paso?
The detour would be posted about Unity Street, to Garfield, 2nd Avenue down Ligonier, and vice versa for southbound traffic, as well as something probably on Route 30 to alert trucks and other deliveries to utilize 982 on that side of town.
But either of the side-by-side options would either move the bridge closer, the approach closer to the facility of community college.
Correct.
Or move it further away.
Yeah, Kimball,
And change the
L. Robert
approach.
Kimball, the designer of the community college, and the Eads Group, the design engineering firm retained by PennDOT District 12-0, are in consultation, sharing each other's plans, so that, for example, there won't be a case where the community college didn't understand where the approaches would be and then would have to do changes to their structure. They're taking those into consideration, and vice versa.
The other old business? New business?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just have a couple quick items. First, as an at-will employee who serves at the discretion of the mayor and council, I thank you for passing the resolution earlier related to the salary ordinance. I do appreciate the opportunity to serve and work in Latrobe. It's quite a privilege, and again, thank you for that confidence and the support. My manager's report stands to you as written. I would like to point out under the budget overview, at the December 2010 year-ending balance in the general fund for the city of Latrobe, again, just 2 years ago, was $38,211. The year-ending balance, December 2011, was $457,551. And this past December, year-ending balance, December 31st, 2012, the general fund balance was $567,751.72. So in essence, at the end of the year 2010, it was $38,000, and the general fund balance has grown to $567,000. A number of factors are contributing to that. One is the past and the current fiscal management of the administrations. 2 is the windfall related to the transfer station and the March 2011 hailstorm, which damaged a number of properties, resulting in a larger than normal number of tonnage going over the scales. 3, the result of that led to more customers than we've really ever seen. And what we're experiencing at the transfer station now is quite frankly the result of the word getting out that it's a great opportunity. However, the benefit to the city has been muted by over 2.5, nearly 3 years of bleeding at the parking system. As you know, the garage closed in 2010. the net result that we're experiencing is a decrease in the number of parkers. And the amount of revenues that the parking authority and the city have collected were for 2012 quite low. So I thank you for buying the mechanisms, making the hard decision to increase rates last year. When the new mechanisms come, the new rates then will be able to be effective. And hopefully 2013 will begin to experience more average and normal rates of return in parking as it relates to revenue. But as Mr. Bolton has pointed out, this will be a budget we need to closely watch quarterly, and maybe in July have to make some critical decisions about how the last 6 months expenditures will occur. I don't want to have to dip into that general fund balance of $567,000, and certainly don't want to reduce it any more than we've budgeted, but would like to even do less than what we budgeted. And lastly, again, thank you for the participants to this past weekend's visioning session. I commend the council for being willing to engage the community about a discussion of where we want to go in the future. And I encourage citizens to both go online and take advantage of the transparency of decision-making that's being exhibited in this community, and welcome volunteerism and ideas and energy. I think one great example is the community gardens. The 70 community gardens are paid for by the generous donations of the citizens of this community. Those 70 gardens have 14,000 bulbs planted in them before the winter began. That's an incredible amount of effort done entirely by volunteers. 2 of those gardens are at the Rehab City Garage here, parking garage. So just again, that's just an example of how much community goodwill and volunteerism there is in this community, and just want to encourage others to throw their hat in the ring and put their shoulder to the oar and move it along.
Thanks. Along those lines, I think I said maybe at the meeting on Friday, but I have a sister who lives in Wyomissing, and every time she comes back here, she's always, first of all, for years she's going on about the flower gardens and how much everything is. And she said if it were up to her, she'd live here. But she has a husband. But that's what her family is. But she's always bringing that up about, that's welcoming when she comes here. So.
Alex, one other person who I think never gets any recognition is our cameraman over there, Jack. We really appreciate you doing this. And Jack came and yes, we do. And Jack came and participated, not only videotaping, but sat with us in one of our small groups at our summit. And we appreciate that, Jack. Thank you.
I appreciate it when he moves the camera around also.
I like where he stands because you can't see me. The chair's in the way.
He's going over here next time.
No, he's not.
Hey, I get on him all the time about that. So get everything move around.
Well, the reason it's important to note the support of Latrobe TV is that, for example, communities like Murraysville have spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on audio and video equipment to tape their meetings and make them available to their public. And I commend council for allowing this to occur last year for the first time in its history. And I hear, rumor be, not only did we lead to the school board doing the similar thing, but the rumor is that Unity Township's considering to allow their meetings to be taped as well.
One more thing, Madam Mayor, one more thing. I don't know if this is the time or the place, and I think it's the time, because the time is critical in this matter, and that's Excella's Hospital's proposal to build a medical mall in Unity Township. I met with Bob Rogalski, the CEO of Excella Health, back in, was that October? And I pled my case, our case, with him about retaining the doctors and physician offices here in town. He promised me a meeting. I've yet to hear from him. Alex has emailed the Excella CEO numerous times. Friday night I met with Doug DeCenza, the COO of Excella Latrobe, again pled my case. If the people in this town don't realize how important this issue is, well, they better wake up, because if they take all the physicians and doctors, our lab here over here, the quick draw lab, if they take them out of this town, it'll hit us like we've never been hit before. The physicians in this town are our lifeblood. The physicians, the dentists, the professional people, and if we have any chance at all, the senior citizens in this town, I know a lot of them don't like driving up on Route 30, crossing the highway. My God, my Aunt Mary, when they moved the Hallmark card store from this side of Route 30 over to the other side of Route 30, she couldn't go anymore. My wife or I have to take her now because she doesn't like it. And that's not out of the ordinary for the people in this town. And it would do so much. I tried to appeal to his sense of community. It would do so much for this town if we were to have that mall in this town, or those doctor offices, and we've got some concrete plans. And talking to Ralph Scalise last week, he told me that there was a gentleman agreement a couple of years ago between Excella, before there was a change in the administration, to retain the physician offices in this town. And they seem to have changed their mind. They're going to do the easy thing. They're going to go out in the township, take a nice empty plot of land, put up a building, and move all the physicians there. And this isn't only us. These are physicians from Pleasant Unity, from Norvell, from all over this end of the county.
Dairy.
In Dairy, yeah. So if any of you, or if any of your readers, Chris, Joe, whoever, they need to get in touch with the people that are in charge of these decisions. And before they sign on the dotted line, we have to make one final appeal to their sense of community. And we need to do that, and we need to do that now. Thank you.
The contrast can't be any more starking than community college. In 2005, community college had an agreement to purchase land at the Canamental properties to build a new Laurel campus, Laurel Education Center. They reversed course and chose to do the hard thing, acquiring nearly a block of land, which we believe will be a catalyst for revitalization for years to come, with both students and faculty and others, adding to the commerce that happens in the downtown. We should expect no less from our community hospital, and would echo the councilman's comments. And there still may be time, at least, to make the appeal. That may not do anything to stop that. If it isn't able to stop it, we began this past weekend, and we'll continue to work on Plan B, so to speak, which has to find opportunities in lieu of those potential vacancies as leases and contracts expire and those doctors have moved out there. We have to be ready with a plan. The reality is we have invested over $3 million into the parking facilities this past year. The community college is investing millions of dollars into new buildings. It should be followed by the hospital as well investing into the community and not pulling out.
And I think, Alex, too, I mean, I don't know what's happened to the whole sense of community with the hospital anymore. I mean, it's really disheartening to everybody. And I also think that the traffic problems that's going to be entailed. I mean, 30's a mess as it is with traffic. Since Walmart came in, they put that light there. We don't have the greatest of systems in this town, infrastructure in this area, and I think it's going to tax the transportation system. Seniors that can easily come downtown and park close and walk close and all those things. I don't understand it. But I agree with Councilman Baldneri. Maybe, I don't know if it would help, but would it help if this council passed a resolution that we sent to them and said, hey, look, we're vehemently opposed to this. It's detrimental to the town, it's detrimental to the community as a whole. I mean, it certainly can't hurt.
I would just, I guess my caution is, we want a world-class medical system in this area. That's attractive to businesses. There's no doubt when businesses look at relocating to Westmoreland County, they want to know what kind of healthcare system's in place. We're not looking to, by any means, hamper or debilitate the business model for the hospital and what it needs to do to service our community. And I don't think that will happen by asking them to reconsider. We can work out options that could include the parking they need as well as the square footage they need to meet their needs to be the competitive healthcare system that best meets the needs of this community. So I would just say, we're not looking to do anything to detract from the healthcare delivery. We just want to be a part of a discussion. And to the credit of Excel, I think at least we heard again that there is a willingness to communicate to the leadership our desire to meet. That communication would most certainly be bolstered by an action of council tonight supporting a future meeting.
Who do we have on the board of Excel Health anymore?
Unfortunately, we do not have maybe the local representation that we once had back when the merger occurred.
That's right, and all obstetrical cases, I think, now have to go to Greensburg. They used to be in Latrobe.
That's correct. Well, yeah, I mean, they're not delivering babies here anymore.
It's easier to move the mothers than it is the doctors, I guess.
Ron, let's see. Ron?
Ken, you ought to make contact with Lehigh Valley Steel, because they have a lot of property there, and a lot of it's right along Ligonier Street.
I'm sure you know, that's not out of the question, but we have property right here in town that Alex and I have discussed. You know, we've got the whole Troutman's building essentially. We've got the Scalise property. We've got the 1100 Depot Street. We've already got the lab. I mean, right here it would be a medical campus, so to speak. And we'd be willing to work with them building a pedestrian bridge to connect with the parking garage, whatever. We'll do anything, including Lehigh Valley Steel. I mean, you know, we'd do anything to get them to come to town.
That would be duplicative, because they would do just new construction there, which they're planning on doing in Unity, so.
Yeah, that's a point well taken.
We don't look now, but aren't they just trying to compete with Medical Express and those other dock in a box? I mean, they're acting like entrepreneurs. Well, of course, you go to Walmart and go to a dock in a box. But my question really is, what services are they going to offer out there that they can't offer over at Excel Health, the current Excel Health hospital?
Exactly.
I mean, what difference is there going to be?
Well, what the difference is, the facilities that are currently doing those services here in the town and up in Second Ward will eventually be vacant. And what the result, we fear, will be a very, very high vacancy rate among office space within the downtown, as well as customer and foot traffic, which will negatively impact the realtors, let alone the real estate that supports.
Well, that's my question. Is that an economic decision? I mean, is that the reason that they're moving? They must be. And I also would note there's fewer and fewer volunteers over at the hospital, because I think that they're getting the idea that this hospital is not like little old Latrobe with Mrs. Scave's private room, you know, and that sort of thing. And Dr. Mazzaro coming to citizens and asking for money, that's not occurring anymore. And you got a CEO that, what does he make? I hesitate to say, what, 350, 750,000 a year? You know, are you going to ask volunteers to sit at a desk for nothing? And a guy walks past you making $750,000 a year. This is CEO of that hospital. So I think they're just gone entrepreneurial, and they're making decisions that are not going to necessarily help the city. Believe me.
All right, anything else? All right, I just have some, make note of committees for this year. Personnel, I have Mr. Baldineri, Mrs. Wolford, Mr. Jim. Finance, Mrs. Wolford, Mr. Scapora, Mr. Forish. The Special Committee for Residential and Recycling Committee, Mr. Jim, Mr. Gianangelo, Mr. Forish.
Y'all make a better coffee. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Motion. I make a motion to adjourn.
Sorry. Second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Ford, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.